Flosstube. Thanks for stopping by my channel. My name is Shiloh and I'm a cross stitcher and knitter living in Nova Scotia, Canada. You can find me on Instagram as @Xstitchmd. I actually had someone comment on my Instagram this week like, are you an MD? Is that why your name is Xstitchmd? And yes, I am a doctor. I'm in training to become a psychiatrist. So I finished medical school 3 years ago and now I'm in the process of completing my psychiatry residency, and it's awesome and I love my job. So I've gotten quite a bit of knitting done over the past few weeks. There's something about the change in seasons that just makes me want to knit all the things. And I actually have 3 knitting finishes to show you. I have been kind of ignoring my stitching, but I do have some progress to show, and rest assured I am not giving up stitching. I still love stitching. I'm just obsessed with knitting. It seems to happen every year around this time. I just want to knit all the things. So like I said, I have 3 knitting finishes to show some cross stitch whip progress. I also have 2 giveaways to talk about near the end of the video, which I'm very excited about. And one of the giveaways coincides with a stitch along I'll be starting that I'm also very excited about. So lots to talk about. If you want any of the details about any of the projects that I talk about, you can just look in the drop down box below this video, and I link all of the projects, where I got the patterns, the yarn, all of those things in case you are enabled and want to start something. So, all right, let's start off with my knitting finishes. So this first finish is what I'm wearing. This is the lounging top, the sport weight version. So this pattern is by Joji Locatelli, and there are 2 versions. There's a fingering weight version and a sport weight version. And so for all of you non-knitters, sport weight and fingering weight refer to the thickness of the yarn. So just like in, DMC versus sulky. Sulky is a lot thicker than DMC. Sport weight yarn is thicker than fingering weight yarn. And so sport weight knits up a bit faster because you need fewer stitches to make the fabric. So this is how my top turned out. And it's a great length. It fits really well. I'm so happy with how it turned out. This is the first time, this is very embarrassing to say. So I've been knitting for several years and never before have I knit a gauge swatch. So what is a gauge swatch? So basically everyone knits with a different tension. So some people knit tighter than other people. And so it's really important, and I always ignored this, to knit a gauge swatch before you start your pattern so that you know how many stitches you get in an inch. So usually gauge is given as number of stitches in 4 inches. So 4 inches wide and 4 inches high. I always just ignored that and figured I would get close to the gauge, and my patterns after I knit them never fit because, surprise, surprise, I wasn't getting the same gauge as the pattern. So I actually knit a gauge swatch. I washed and blocked my gauge swatch, which you're supposed to do. And after I did that, I realized I really liked this fabric. The thing was though, I didn't get the gauge called for in the pattern. So I was getting more stitches per inch than the pattern called for, which meant my project would be smaller than called for. So what I did is I just cast on the next size up and it turned out perfect. So I'm very happy with it. And I am now a convert to doing gauge swatches. So it only took how many years, but now I definitely see the value of them. I also had come across an article recently where a knitter was talking about how with her gauge swatches, she then will sew them all together to make a blanket. And I really liked that idea because to me, I'm like, this feels like a waste. Like I knit this, what do I do with it? And so I liked her idea of kind of sewing together similar weight yarns to make like a blanket or something. So I'm gonna keep my swatches. But yes, I'm very happy with how this sweater turned out. You can see pictures of it on my Instagram. And yeah, it's super cute. It's so comfortable. So this yarn is from Knit Crate, which is a subscription box service. They send out a crate every month with 2 skeins of yarn. It's $25 US. I get it. I'm not sponsored by them, though I'd love to be. And I've been getting the crate for a while. This is from the, I want to say January 2020 crate. So from a while ago, I just hadn't done anything with the yarn because I couldn't decide what to do. And the yarn, it's either January 2020 or February 2020, whatever. I don't know if it's still available. I don't think it's still available. I'm sorry. And the brand of yarn is called Audine Wools. And this is their Shine Sport Base, which is 80% merino wool, 20% tencel, which is like a nylon. And the colorway is called Sky. And as you can see, this yarn is like pretty speckled. And so I did something else I've never done before, which is alternating skeins. So when you have speckled yarn like this, every skein tends to be a bit different. So one of my skeins was definitely a lot more speckled than the other. And if I had just knit them kind of like one skein and then the next, this required 2 skeins of yarn. It would have been a really obvious line where it started. So kind of like in stitching, where if you have 2 threads from different dye lots, what you can do is take one strand of each and use them together, and it kind of blends it better. So alternating skeins is kind of a similar idea, where when you're knitting, you switch yarns each row or every 2 rows, whatever you prefer, and it kind of makes a more blended transition versus it being like one and then the other. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. Yay! So my other knitting finish is the Soundtrack Cowl, and this is by Elizabeth Smith Knits. It is so beautiful. I'll put this on. And this was also a very quick knit, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. These do not go together at all, but whatever, it's knits. So this is a really fun cowl, and I was joking that it could also double as a mask. Not really. Wear your mask, people. So yeah, I love how this turned out. This was also yarn that I got from Knit Crate, and this was from the January 2020 crate. So the yarn for this sweater is from February 2020. And I actually kept the labels of this one. So this was a collaboration with Brooklyn Boy Knits, and the yarn is Knitology worsted weight yarn, which is thicker than sport weight. 100% superwash merino, and it was 2 colors. So this color, here, the lighter color is called Bushwick, and this more variegated color is called Concrete Jungle. So I'm just gonna take this off so you can see. But this was a really fun slip stitch pattern. So you started off with some ribbing, and then you slip some stitches so that you get the color poking through. And I really like how it turned out, and it's such a nice texture. It's just like such a squishy, cozy yarn, and I love how this cowl turned out. To me, this is like the quintessential fall colors. I am so happy with this, and it's super cute, super cozy. Cue the part of the video where I put knit things around my face, because I just do that. So that is my Soundtrack cowl, which was super fun to knit. I am planning, there's a matching sweater, short sleeve sweater. I'm kind of obsessed with knitting short sleeve sweaters because sleeves take a really long time to knit and they're kind of boring. But there's a matching sweater that I'm planning on casting on, and I got the yarn for it, and I'll show you that later. My next knitting finish, sorry to all you stitchers there, I promise stitching is coming, but you should also start knitting because it's super fun. I finished my socks. So last time you saw these, I had like this much left of the toe to do, and I finished them. So this is yarn by Loops and Threads from Michaels, and it is called Perfect Pair sock yarn, and the colorway is called Drive All Night. And I love how these turned out. They're so cute. They are a acrylic and bamboo blend, which is really nice. I never thought you could knit socks with acrylic yarn, but this is actually really nice yarn. And I got these to match up quite nicely, which I'm proud of. I did do a different amount of ribbing. I did a longer amount of ribbing on the second sock, which I think I like that amount of ribbing better than this, because it stays on my foot a bit better. I don't really like knitting ribbing. Just switching back and forth between the knits and purls isn't as fun. I like just doing the plain stockinette, it's fun. But anyway, I finished these socks, so yay. I knit these on a 9-inch circular needle, and it was a US 2.5 millimeter, which I believe is a US 2, something like that. Anyway, I'm really happy with these socks. They're super cozy, and now I basically have a full knit outfit I can wear, but none of it matches. All right, let's move on to some stitching. So I worked on 3 projects over the past few weeks, and one of them was a new start. So I'll show that one first. So I think a lot of you have probably seen the Owl Forest embroidery free pattern called 100 Owls. And this pattern is going to feature 100 owls, and it's free pattern. They release a new part every Friday, and I think they're up to part 5 right now. It's such an awesome pattern, and I feel so bad because I've really been neglecting mine. I started it last week and I put in so few stitches, but I did get some more work on it yesterday. And I love it. I just need to like get some knitting out of my head so I can focus more on stitching. So here's my start so far. I started in the middle on part 2 because that's the top center of the project. And I've never started in the top center before, but that was just kind of what I decided to do. So I have the leaves in the center stitch, and this is the start of one owl here. I'm using the called for fabric, It's kind of hard to see, this is really blowing it out. It's 30, so it calls for 32 count. I'm using 36 count, but it's the colorway is called Limestone, and it's a Zweigart fabric. I really like it. It's like a really pale green, and I really like how the white pops on it. So this is really cute. It's stitching up really quickly. The colors in this are really pretty. So I'm using all the called for DMC. So here they are. I just love these colors. And I have my cute little floss tags, so I just punched these out. I have I think it's a Fisker's punch. That's this shape. And then I just punch a hole in the top and bottom and put a jump ring, key ring, something with it. What I did for this too is I put the symbol for the color on the top, which has been super helpful because I just have like the symbols. So what I'm looking for, this was my little attempt to draw a leaf. It's kind of not great. And my star is quite pathetic. But it's made it really easy when I'm stitching because I just look for the symbol on my floss card. So I'm really happy with that decision, and it was fun drawing them. So that is my 100 OWLS sampler. And if you want to see someone that's like way far ahead of me and I think actually keeping up, go check out Rocio of Kokohama Stitchery on Flosstube and Instagram, and hers is looking beautiful. She's using this hand-dyed fabric. It's gorgeous. It looks amazing, and she is so fast. She's stitching this so quickly. I consider myself a quick stitcher, but it only happens if I put in the time. So. All right, the other thing I've worked on is a stitch along I'm doing with Tiff in Stitches on Flosstube and Instagram. And we're stitching together the Bristol Sampler from the May-June 2012 issue of the Gift of Stitching magazine. And this is an online magazine. I've talked about it before. You can go to their website and purchase all the back issues. I think they have them now. It's like 72 issues for $40. So it's like, you have to buy that. And here's where I'm at. I didn't get much done since last time, but I got a few more letters in. And this is so much fun to stitch. I love stitching alphabets. They're the best. This alphabet at the top takes quite a bit of time to stitch because the letters are so big, but I love the fonts. Also, what I love about this sampler is that all of the alphabets are full alphabets. So historically accurate samplers, you know, like reproduction samplers and stuff, are often missing the letter J or the letter V just because those letters didn't come into common usage until like later. I don't know, like the 1800s or 1900s, whatever. But I like mine to be accurate to the present day. So I always modify my samplers to include that, and it's just nice that I don't have to do that for this one. I'm stitching this on 37 count Russian tea cake linen from Access Commodities, and I'm using a sulky thread. The color number is 1112, and the color is royal purple, and this is like exactly what the color is. It's hard to see it on the stitching itself, but that's the color there. And so I've talked about sulky thread before, but basically comes on a spool. It's 100% cotton. It's designed for cross stitching, and it's about the thickness of 2 strands of DMC. So on 37 count, I'm using 1 strand of sulky, and it's a thick coverage, but I like thick coverage. I always use 2 strands of floss on 36 count, like my Owl Forest embroidery sampler. I'm using 2 strands of DMC on 36 count. So I really like the coverage I'm getting here. If you aren't a fan of such thick coverage, then I would say 1 strand of sulky would be perfect on 32 count. And I am stitching a project with 1 strand of sulky on 32 count, and it's looking really good. So the sulky thread is great too because you get 50 yards on a spool. So I think I bought 12 spools for this project. 10 spools, I bought 10 spools, which is probably overkill, but I'd rather not run out. So that is my Bristol sampler. And the other project I've been stitching on, which has gotten the most love because, that's actually funny because first of all, it's a heart pattern. So this is Cirque De Course by Ink Circles Designs. I got this pattern as a PDF download from their website. And this pattern I'm just loving. This is like total comfort stitching for me. It's monochrome, it's silk, it's beautiful, and I am so happy with this. So I have finished the first page, and all like the pointy bits are kind of going into the next pages. I'm using a Silks for You silk, which is this beautiful magenta color, and I believe the number is PR119. I'm using 2 strands of silk on a 32 count white Zweigart Murano even weave. So even weave is different from linen because all of the fabric threads are the same thickness. With linen, might be a little bit hard to tell, but with linen, the fabric threads are of different thicknesses, so some are thicker and some are thinner. I love stitching on both. Even weave is nice because all of your squares turn out the same size. And you can see over here is where I did my little pin stitch tutorial, and I haven't picked that out yet. Thanks for all the feedback I got on that tutorial. It was a lot of fun to do, and I'm hoping to do some more tutorials in the future. So if you have any ideas or anything you'd like me to demonstrate how to do, hopefully I know how to do it, but leave me a comment below and let me know, because it's really fun and I love showing like little tips and tricks I've picked up. And I've heard from a lot of you that the pin stitch has been really helpful, and it's one of those things that it's like so fun once you figure out how to do it. So that is my Cirque De Course, and I am loving it. It is beautiful. In other stitching news, I dropped off 2 patterns to get framed at my local Michaels. So all throughout the pandemic, Michaels kind of like stopped doing sales on their custom framing. And I was just like waiting, and finally they had a sale for 55% off. So Michaels at baseline, their framing is very expensive. But if you get a sale, and it's usually on sale, it's pretty reasonable. So I dropped off 2 pieces to get framed. I'll put in pictures here of the frames I picked out along with the projects. So the first one is Modern Folk Embroidery Swedish Folk Cushion. And this is a pattern I stitched on 25 count gray linen. And I used 3 strands of DMC ecru. Love it. I literally picked out this frame in 2 seconds because it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. The other pattern is Jardin Privé, and it is Sampler aux Fleurs, or the flower sampler. And I stitched this one on 36 count Xstitchmd design marbled little bunny linen with 2 strands of DMC 632. Now this one was a challenge to pick out a frame because originally I thought I wanted a dark frame to kind of match the stitching, but they did not have any frames that matched, and it just was not working until I saw the frame that I ended up picking out, which is a lighter color, and I didn't think it would work, but when it was up there, it just turned out amazing. So just because I'm interested in prices, and I'm sure you are too, so I got both of these framed, and they were about $70 each. So the Modern Folk Embroidery, I think, was like, the stitching itself is like 12 by 12, so with the framing it's like 14 by 14. And the Jardin Privé one was, I think, 12 by 16, something like that. So the frame was a little bit bigger. So in my mind, that's a pretty reasonable price because these are custom frames. So this was not off the shelf, like they're literally making the frame for me. I get regular glass. So you can also get museum quality glass, which is non-glare. I don't think it's worth the price. It's like an extra like 20 to 50 bucks. And for me, I haven't seen that it makes enough of a difference for me to want to pay that amount for it. So yeah, so each of those projects was $70 to get framed, which I thought was fairly reasonable. Some of my bigger projects are a lot more expensive to get framed, and definitely have to save up my pennies to afford them. But I put in all this Cirque stitching. I want it up on my walls, and I'm really happy with my framers at Michaels. They do a really good job. They know me because I'm in there all the time. So I'm really excited to get those back. They should be back in a couple weeks, and I'm excited to show you them. I also have to decide where in the world I'm going to put them, because so the way my apartment's laid out is I have a giant hallway that connects my bedroom and the living room, and I don't have any stitching on that hallway so far, but I feel like I need a bunch of stitching on it because if I have like 1 or 2 projects, I feel like those will look kind of empty. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I'm excited to get those back. Okay, let's go back to knitting because I have a few knitting projects I'm working on. One of them is a pair of socks that I've cast on, and this is the Vanilla Latte sock pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. Ravelry is kind of like the go-to site for knitters because it has all kinds of free patterns. You can post your progress, you can buy patterns there. It's an awesome website. So here's where I'm at. I'm almost finished the first sock, and these look funny because the way the pattern is, it's an alternating knit and purl stitch, and so when this is on my leg, it's like stretched out and looks nice, but it's kind of all funky looking. I'm using Knit Picks yarn. Knit Picks is an awesome website that has really reasonably priced yarn. This yarn is awesome. I love it. It is the Hawthorne Fingering Weight yarn, and this is an exclusive collection. They put out collections every few months in their Sock Lab collection. I just keep saying that word. And this was a set of 3 yarns. This one I believe is called Improv, and I just love how it's knitting up. So it's kind of like this spirally pattern, and then when I was knitting the heel, it just kind of did this little funky thing, and then it was striping here, and now it's back to spiraling. It's just so much fun. These colors are so cheerful and awesome. Like, this would be a very busy sweater if you were to knit a yarn in this, or a sweater, knit a sweater in this yarn, but as a sock, like, this is so fun. So yeah, I knit my cuff, the leg, the heel, the foot. The foot is, the bottom is just stockinette stitch, and then the top of the foot is the pattern, which helps it fit nicely. And I have probably another inch or so to go in the foot before I can decrease for the toe. So these are pretty close to being finished. I actually decided to size up on my needles. So for these socks, I was using a 2.5 millimeter needle. And for these ones, I switched to a 2.75 millimeter needle, just because these ones were a little bit tight in the kind of instep heel area. They still fit, but they were just a little bit tight. So I sized up, and I tried this one on so far, and it fits a lot better. So I think I like that a little bit better. So yeah, this is my vanilla latte sock. Super fun. Love this yarn, and the plan is to cast on the second one immediately after I finish this. So gotta keep myself to that. So yeah, this is a really fun pattern, and it is super easy, and it is free. Okay, what else am I working on? I have some plans for knitting. So I am planning on starting the soundtrack sweater. So my soundtrack cowl, there's also a sweater pattern, and I only had one skein of each of these yarns because it came in my knit crate. So that was definitely not enough to knit the sweater, and I don't have, that yarn is no longer available because they sold out of it. So I was trying to decide what kind of yarn I wanted to use for the sweater. And I'm really lucky because here in Halifax we have 2 local yarn stores, and the one that's super close to me is called LK Yarns. And so I went there last week and I picked out the yarn for my soundtrack sweater. So let me just pull it all out here. So I'll show you the 2 colors. So the main color of the body, I'm going to use this beautiful purpley lavender. This is Estelle worsted, which is 50% acrylic, 40% wool, 10% nylon. And it's a worsted weight. The colorway is not, it's just a number. It's not a fun name or anything like that. So I got this, and this required 3 skeins for the bottom part. And then for the top, the contrast, I got Cascade 220 Superwash Wave. And it is this really fun purpley marley color. It is called, also does not have a name, it just has a number. I don't even know if it has a number. Oh yes, it's color 111, very boring. But look how nice these look together. I am very, very happy with these. So that is my plan for the soundtrack sweater by Elizabeth Smith Knits, and I'm gonna cast that on hopefully soon. And this Cascade yarn is 100% superwash wool. I think this is also superwash wool. Well, it's acrylic and nylon. Yeah, so these are both, you can put both of these in the washing machine, which is great. So yeah, I'm very happy with my yarn choices. The owner, Louise, was very helpful because I was very indecisive. The other thing I am so excited to start is the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So for those of you non-knitters, Stephen West is a knitwear designer who's known for like absolutely wild patterns with like all kinds of color and beautiful textures, and they're just amazing. So every year he does a mystery shawl knit along, and last year I did the shawl after the pattern had already come out. I haven't finished it, and I should find it and I should finish it. But this year I found out about it before it started, so I'm planning on joining along. And the pattern is called, well, the hashtag for it is Slip Stripaganza, something like that. It's gonna have slip stitches basically. And it starts October 9th. So I am so excited to start on it. I know Jan from Jan Hicks Creates is planning on starting it as well. And I'm so excited. So I got my yarn. I'm gonna show you because I am so excited about this. Okay, so the yarn, so the pattern, you purchase the pattern, it's not out yet. So the pattern, when you buy it right now, just basically tells you how to pick your yarn. So you need 2 skeins of the main color and then 3 contrasting colors. So for my main color, I went with, I have 2 of these skeins. This gorgeous, that's like the color right there, this gorgeous burgundy color. And this is Fleece Artist organic cottage socks, 80% organic merino, 20% nylon. I should do infomercials, right? And this is actually a local to me dyer, Halifax, Nova Scotia, fleece artist, which is really cool. And so I got 2 skeins of that for my main color. Oh, it's so beautiful, so, so beautiful. My contrasting colors, okay, I'm gonna start with like the least exciting to the most exciting. So the first one I got was Malabrigo, 100% merino superwash. The colorway is natural, right? So like this goes together nicely. Okay, are you ready for these? It's Steve & West, so I had to go with something bright. The next contrast color I got was Color Story Yarns. OMG, how beautiful is this? Nope, it's falling apart. I still have to cake these all up, which I'm excited to do. So this is Color Story Yarns in the colorway Orchid. It's a superwash wool and nylon. So like, oh, look at these together. Oh. Okay, and the last one, sorry for all bending over, is, what brand is this? Log House Cottage Yarn. Like, I love this so much. So these are my yarns. Let's see if I can hold them all up together for my Steve & West knit along, and I'm so excited for this. Like, this is like everything. Like, I love this color so much. Like, all the different speckles and stuff. It's gonna be so beautiful. I was a little bit worried about how these two would be together, but in the pattern it says that you don't use any of the contrast colors next to each other. So the main thing is that you have good contrast between your contrast colors and the main color. So I think I should be good with using both of these. This color is amazing. So I am so excited to start this. So October 9th it starts. If any of you knitters want to start, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a lot of fun. His shawls are huge, so it's going to be like basically a blanket, and I'm going to wear it every single day. Already decided. Okay, so that is all my knitting haul and knitting plans. Let's go to stitching. So I was browsing on Instagram and I came across this gorgeous pattern called Winter Wonderland, and this is a pattern available on the Silk Stitching app, which is designed by, oh gosh, okay, I'm gonna say this correctly because Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts taught me how to say this from her videos. Xstitchmd, did I say it right? So they are a shop in Germany, and they have developed an app where they have a lot of their patterns on the app. So it's iOS only, and you can purchase the patterns on the app, and then the app itself displays the pattern. It's a really handy app. I have a few patterns from them. It's awesome. This pattern called Winter Wonderland, I saw it and I'm like, I have to stitch this. I'm not usually a seasonal stitcher. I tend to stitch samplers year round, and I don't really stitch a lot of seasonal pieces, but when I saw this one, I was like, I need this. So I feel like a lot of you also would like this pattern, and so I would like to start a stitch along for this pattern starting on November 1st. So I think I have some fabric for it already in my stash. It calls for 3 colors of Soie d'Alger or DMC. I'm going to use the DMC conversion. It would also be a really beautiful pattern to use like an over-dyed red for. So I have to decide what I'm going to do with that, and I think I'm going to use like a raw natural linen for this, but there's so many different color combinations and fabric combinations you could use, and I would love to see what everyone else can come up with if you're interested in stitching this along with me. So the plan is to start it November 1st, and the hashtag will be hashtag Winter Wonderland SAL. And to kind of sweeten the deal, Dorothy from Xstitchmd has offered to give away 2 copies of this pattern. So 2 of you got to win it, which is very exciting. So like I said, it's an iOS only app, and you have to have the app in order to download the pattern. But I'm going to be giving away 2 copies of this pattern in this video. So if you would like to win this pattern, leave me a comment below and include the word winter somewhere in your comment. You can literally type a comment and just put the word winter at the end. I don't care. Or you can make a fun sentence, because that's always interesting to read. And I will draw the winners in my next Flosstube video in 2 weeks. So good luck. Now, I realize that not everyone has an iOS device, which is Apple, by the way. I feel like people probably know that, but so I wanted to have another giveaway this week that was open to everyone, regardless of what brand of technology you use. So I want to give away my copy of Mini Quaker Stitches by Jeanette Douglas Designs. So I stitched this a little while ago as a stitch along with Jan and someone else that I forget your name, I'm so sorry. And you could see the pattern on my Instagram page. And this came with the Gloriana silk, which you use to stitch this line of satin stitch. So you literally used like a strand, so there is plenty. Gloriana is a 12-strand silk, so there is plenty, and I'll include that along with the pattern. So this is open to anyone, anywhere in the world. I'll ship it anywhere. All you have to do if you want to be entered for this is leave me a comment and include the word Quaker in your comment. So that's Mini Quaker Stitches by Jeanette Douglas Designs. It was a very fun stitch. I really, really enjoyed it. So 2 giveaways. 1 for Winter Wonderland, use the word winter in your comment. 2 for Mini Quaker Stitches, use the word Quaker in your comment. All right, I think that's all I have in terms of stitching and knitting. It's been a really fun 2 weeks of crafting. I really enjoyed it. Just a little bit of a life update because some of you were asking about that in my last video. So I'm a psychiatry resident and I am in my 3rd year, and in 3rd year we do 6 months of child psychiatry, 6 months of geriatric psychiatry. So I'm on my child psychiatry rotation, and I just finished up 3 months of outpatient child psychiatry. And because of COVID, we've been doing most of our patients we've been seeing over Zoom. So that's been nice because I've been able to work from home, which means I've had a lot more stitching and knitting time because no commute, and if I ever have a patient like no show or cancel, I can get in some stitching or knitting time. But as of October 1st, I switched over to my next rotation, which is 3 months on the inpatient child psychiatry unit. So definitely a much busier pace because now I'm going and working at the hospital every day, but I'm really enjoying it so far. But it does mean I have a little bit less stitching and knitting time. Oh well. So that's a little bit of a life update for me. Yeah, things are going well. We're really lucky here in Nova Scotia. Our province is basically shut down to travelers from outside of even other provinces in Canada. We have what's called the Atlantic bubble. So there's 4 provinces in the Atlantic region, which are Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island, and we can travel freely between those provinces. But if you want to come from another province or from out of country, you have to quarantine, self-isolate for 2 weeks. That's meant that our cases are really low. We only have a couple of cases. So I feel very, very lucky that things are pretty much normal here, although it is hard because my family's back in Ontario and I miss them a lot. But fingers crossed that Christmas time I'll be able to go see them. We'll see. Otherwise, keeping myself busy with work and stitching and knitting and spending time outside before the weather gets a bit colder. Nova Scotia is absolutely beautiful in the fall. The leaves turn and it's just stunning. So that's all I have to talk about this week. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe and leave me a comment. I love reading everyone's comments, and hopefully, well, good luck to all of you for winning the giveaway, but 3 of you will be lucky and win. So take care, have a great weekend of stitching. Hope you're all doing well and staying safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.